Let's get back to it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please greet the Duchess and Prince of Sussex. Is that the right way round? The Prince and Duchess of Sussex or somewhere. Hip hip. I was reading that report and I wondered, now, how is the Daily Mail going to make this Harry's fault? I stopped reading about halfway through. Who cares? Go home, they said. Some texts and emails and such from last night. Alice texted, P&O staff shouldn't be surprised that they've lost their jobs when you have a Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab, who is on record as saying he doesn't believe in workers' rights and surprise, surprise. Which is an odd sentence. Surprise, surprise. Do you mean angular, tetchy, humanoid Dominic Deckchair Raab?
Correct.
Yeah, he did. Him and a collection of ghouls from the regime wrote a book called Britannia Unchained. You probably heard about this. I was going to mention this last night. Kwasi Kwarteng, Priti Patel. You know Priti Patel, don't you? Yeah, that's her. Angular, tetchy, humanoid Dominic Deckchair Raab, Chris Skidmore, and Elizabeth Truss. Famous international hat model. Too many people in Britain prefer a lie-in to hard work, they said.
What?
Yeah. They wrote a book. It took 5 of them. Maybe they all took one word per sentence. Looks like word salad to me. God, the stuff they put in there. Nobody should be remotely surprised at the direction of travel of this country because those people are in charge. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Hugh text, I have to tell you about my dream last night. It was so weird. Normally I don't remember my dreams. But I had a dream about a certain person who I was talking about at length yesterday. I'll get to that in a minute. Hugh text, Nick, did you hear Boris Winston Johnson criticising Rootin' Tootin' Shootin' Putin for blowing up high-rise flats and killing children, not seeing the irony? Wait, well, I haven't read through the rest of this, but is Bodger responsible for that too? Well, let's find out. Johnson has thousands of people in the UK living in high-rise tinderboxes. Oh, well, that's true. And has threatened to see the Navy drown children in the English Channel. Push them all back out to sea. Let them drown. How many more of these are there? Oh, my God, there's a boatload. Already I'm behind, and it's not even like 5 minutes into the show. Alex texts, this is all from last night. Nick, Cameron wasn't interested in helping the English poor when he was the Prime Minister, but he wants to go all out to help the poor people in Ukraine. Please help me understand this. I can't. But I do know that we're still not missing you, Dave. But we know where to find you if we do. You'll be in the shed where they keep the tools.
I think this is nonsense.
Paul says, Nick, can you please tell me how the government can spend £13 billion on a refurbishment of a building that already exists? Which building is that? Oh, that building. Yeah, well, I don't know why it does cost that much. It just seems ridiculous to pay that much to tart up the Palace of Westminster. But it is a fantastic building. It's just a shame about the people inside it. That's all. And it's very old, and it's probably it's got it's like infested with rats, and there's probably rodents in there too. Simon says, Nick, is this out of touch or plain trolling? Johnson does a speech about protecting democracy, and Cameron is volunteering for a charity which helps feed the poor. I think that is industrial grade trolling there, Simon. Well spotted. Helps feed the poor. I bet they wake up laughing at us, poor dopes who pay taxes. They must think, what can we do to them today? Oh, I know. Gary says, a Brexit conundrum. Are the P&O agency workers foreigners coming over here and taking our jobs? I couldn't believe it when I read the RMT, the trade union, the union mob, as the Mail said they were yesterday, for warmly greeting Natalie Elphicke. No! They said, what a great video that is. Shame on you, they were saying. And, they were all behind if you haven't seen this, you must look it up. All the workers, or the ex-workers, of course, were behind a barrier, And Natalie Elphick appeared as though by magic. And she was standing there with her hair and, her whole thing in front of the barrier, in front of these workers, taking charge. It was going to be all about the Natalie. And some people, maybe she didn't hear what they were saying, but the people behind the barrier were saying, you voted for this company to be able to fire and hire. Maybe she didn't understand what they were saying, or she didn't quite get it, or her brain was giving her mixed signals. But she stood there and she joined in with a chant that was directed at her. Shame on you, they said, pointing at her. And she joined in with the first couple and then realised, oh, hang on a minute, they're not saying it about P&O, they're saying it about me. And she said, right, that's it, I'm leaving. Oh, God, what a shower, eh? Adam says, Nick, the British voted for Brexit to prevent foreigners from taking their jobs, and now P&O have used that fact that the UK is no longer governed by EU employment law to sack all the British workers and give the jobs to foreigners. Try explaining this to somebody who doesn't live here. Shocking, says Adam. Yeah, how's that whole Brexit thing going for you, by the way?
Oh, fabulous.
Neil says, one more left after this. And then I can get on with today's show. He says, no more weather reports, please. They'll be wearing their dreadful flip-flops soon. I can't bear them. I will do a weather report. I just will. Yesterday's was fantastic. I've got a weather report from Antarctica. Here is the weather report from Antarctica. It's the hottest it's ever been, ever, ever, ever. The coldest location on the planet has experienced an episode of warm weather this week, unlike any ever observed. The temperatures over the eastern Antarctic ice sheet soared 50 to 90 degrees above normal. What? That's true. 50 to 90 degrees above normal. Can you imagine if that happened here? This entire country would melt. This is in Her Majesty's Fahrenheit, by the way, not that European surrender centigrade. No! The warmth has smashed records and shocked scientists. Scientists said, what? Said an expert, this event is completely unprecedented and upended our expectations about the Antarctic climate system, said a spokesmodel. Antarctic climatology has been rewritten, said another. I can't believe it, said somebody else. Parts of eastern Antarctica have seen temperatures hover 70 degrees, that is 40 degrees Celsius, above normal for 3 days and counting. But it's still not very warm, but it's still like a lot warmer than it normally is. It's, instead of being minus 50, it's now close to 0 or 10 degrees above 0, something like that. But that is a massive heat wave by Antarctic standards. Still, I'm sure it's just weather. Got nothing to do with climate change because that doesn't exist. I read it on Facebook. The historically high temperatures in Antarctica follow a pulse of exceptionally warm weather on the planet's opposite end. On Wednesday, temperatures near the North Pole catapulted 50 degrees above normal, close to melting point. And this is big news, huge to us, because warm ocean temperatures threaten to destabilise Antarctica's Thwaites Glacier, a slab the size of Florida that contributes about 4% of global sea level rise. When the shelf fails, the eastern third of the Thwaites Glacier, the eastern third of Thwaites Glacier will triple in speed, spitting formerly landlocked ice into the sea. The total collapse of Thwaites could result in several feet of sea level rise, scientists say, endangering millions of people in coastal areas. And as you're never more than about 70 miles, what is it? No, it's actually about 40 miles from the sea where we are. This entire country is going down. Right, is that it? No, one more. Nick, Jacob Rees-Mogg has to be the most annoying MP in the House, and you've just confirmed that he is. Correctamundo, Paul. I had a dream about him last night. I had a dream about Jacob Rees-Mogg. Can you believe that?
No.
He's actually infested my mind when I'm asleep. Now, I don't normally remember dreams, but this one was just so weird And I woke up with a start and realised that I had been dreaming about Jacob Rees-Mogg. I am stunned. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Now, maybe it was just because I was going on and on and on and on and on and on about him last night. I was giving it loads. I was being mean. In fact, so mean that some nice lady called up later on and said, "Why are you so mean about the Conservatives? They've never done anything. Never done anything wrong. They're lovely." Or words to that effect. It was probably because, I was discussing him at length last night. I had him on my mind, and he has inveigled my consciousness. My subconscious, moreover. He's got into my id.
Disgusting.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC.
Nobody.
Colm emails, the world is on the brink of an eco-financial market collapse, World War III, starvation, mass migration and anarchy, but it's all okay because Baldy Wills and his missus have jetted off to the Caribbean with an entourage of 200 servants on a 2-week holiday to allegedly promote how wonderful the Queen is. What a waste of time and money, says Colm. Well, that sounds like traitorous talk to me. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present from all the way over there, Wills and what's it? Hip hip? Boo! Blown off the island by the force of their welcome, they were. Thanks a lot, Harry. See what you've done? I've got no idea. They'll find some way to blame it on him. And as for Meghan, beyond the pale. The Wicked Witch of the West. Taken our precious puppy. Kath texts, "Hey Nick, I heard on the news a couple of weeks ago that they were setting out the parameters for the COVID inquiry. They said they want to outline what they want." Well, she's written the number 2 there. Stop. You have to stop communicating in cartoons and numbers, people. They said, says Kath, they want to outline what lessons must be learned. They really are trolling us. It's always the same. It doesn't matter what the issue is at hand or how long the investigation has taken. The answer is always lessons must be learned. Don't take a suitcase of cash from Vladimir Putin. Who knew? Now, lessons must be learned.
Affirmative.
Brentwood, hello, Alex.
Hi, good evening, Nick. I wonder if you could just give a little quick message to Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yes.
And let him know that Beano is a comic and Lord Sneaky is not meant to be a real-life character.
Yeah.
He seems to model himself on that. You've got Bunter Johnson and Pretty Useless. He's basically turned into some sort of a edition of The Simpsons, but the English version of it.
Yeah, they all look like they're taken out of the Beano. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the Bash Street kids.
Well, they're Downing Street kids, and Dominic Raab. I mean, we thought that the Vulcan, remember him? John Redwood, we thought he was pretty soulless, but I think Dominic Raab takes it to a whole new level.
Dominic Raab is a tetchy, angular humanoid.
Correct.
Very good.
Thanks a lot, Alex. 0345 6060 973. We're never going to forget it, Dominic, deck chair Raab. Ever. Not ever, ever, ever. Oh, I want to get to the conference today. Oh, blimey, they are laying it on thick. Laying it on thick with a trowel. They've figured out, they must have done focus groups, and they figured out how to win the next general election, despite, everything that they've ever done. And it's to concentrate on the W word. Wokery.
Fabulous.
We are going to be hearing that over and over and over again. Like they're like they've engaged in battle with wokery on our behalf. Painful. Did I tell you I had a dream about Jacob Rees-Mogg? I'll tell you about that in a minute. Where to go first? This Britannia Unchained thing. I mean, I was going to mention it yesterday in connection with the P&O thing, but I got bogged down in how stunned I was that the RMT, the union, told their workers to vote to leave the European Union, and then listed an entire suite of reasons, all of which could have been written by Jacob Rees-Mogg. It's just incredible. There was a lot in last night's show. Is it available as a podcast yet, or is that
No,
forthcoming
it's not.
attractions? Ordinarily, it would be. But I've got work experience on at the moment, so there's been a delay.
Oh, no.
But ordinarily, we squirt this show up the internet and take the news and the ads out, so it takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity, and you still won't be able to pay your fuel bill. So it will be up there soon. That's a guarantee, isn't it?
It's an absolute guarantee.
Absolute guaranteed. I'll take this one first. Camden. Hello, Claire.
Hi, Nick.
Hello, Claire.
In olden times.
The what?
In olden times.
In olden times, a glimpse of stocking was thought of as something shocking. Now heaven knows.
Disgusting.
Anything goes.
In front of the coach with the king in it, there used to be...
Wait a minute, back up. In front of the coach with the king, what the king called King Caractacus?
Because kings would go around in coaches, yeah?
Kings would go around in coaches, yes. Mm-hmm. With butlins written on the front of it.
In front of his coach would walk a buffoon.
A buffoon, yes. That's right. In front of the coach would walk a buffoon.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
That's right.
And the buffoon would do his cartwheels and entertain the mob.
Exactly right.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
All you need to do is to smash your foot on the accelerator and you could run over the buffoon.
And the buffoon would entertain the mob around, but also at the same time, this would mean that the populace around would be relaxed.
Yeah, that's right. You would relax them. Yeah. The buffoon. The purpose of the buffoon is to relax the gullible. Yeah.
And in this way, the populace would dare to tell the buffoon about their woes.
Yeah.
But also the buffoon would be able to tell the populace the truth.
Right.
Because the king would never venture with the truth in front of the populace.
Of the public. That's right. He would tell the truth to the public via the buffoon, or kind of using him like a sponge.
Yeah.
He would soak the buffoon with truth, and little droplets of it would then scatter in front of the king, come in out the back of the buffoon. Isn't that awful? I hope that you've got a vivid mental image of that, everybody.
But nowadays they have scrapped one of these jobs. They have squeezed through both jobs into one.
That's right. Yes. The king is now the buffoon. Yeah. They've cancelled the truth part, and they've just gone with maximising the buffoonery. Yeah.
So by obeying the laws of efficiency, they have achieved around zero.
Yeah.
Because we don't know who is in the coach nowadays.
That's right. For efficiency and for maximising our approach to net zero, the king is now the buffoon. Excellent value for money.
We don't know whether it's the buffoon inside the coach or the king.
Yeah, and not only is the buffoon inside the coach, but he's also driving. He's doing 3 jobs. You know where they're going, don't you?
Peppa Pig World. Peppa Pig World is...
Yes. Peppa Pig.
Peppa Pig
is the right answer. He's going to Peppa Pig World. You know what that bus has actually got written on the front of it? Nowhere.
Rock and roll!
Anybody remember what that is? A bus with nowhere written on it? Do you remember that, Claire?
Sorry?
A bus with nowhere written on it. You know, the destination of the bus is nowhere. Do you remember that?
No.
Hands in the air, who remembers that? Keep them up while I count. No one. How quickly we forget.
I think the bus is heading towards something I don't...
The precipice.
Yeah.
We're all going to go over the edge. Yeah. It's like that
And
old... Go on.
I didn't want to name it because it's not good.
No. Well, what lies at the bottom of the precipice? Yeah. Well, don't get upset, Claire. You never know. It might never have... Oh, no, that's right. It already has. All right. Cheers, my dear. Excellent work there, Claire. 0345 6060 973. You know the old Bob Monkhouse joke? The old Bob Monkhouse bus joke? Everybody knows that joke, right? I'd like to die in my sleep like my father, not screaming in panic like his passengers. 0345 6060 973. Jenny texts, Nick, you're right. There's no such thing as climate change or global warming. In other news, the Wirral is on fire. I can see it from North Wales. It looks amazing and chilling. What's happening in the Wirral? Was there something in the news about the Wirral being on fire?
Yeah, it broke just a little bit before we started, but it's mostly just pictures on Twitter. They're not 100% sure what's happening at the moment. They think it might have been intentionally started, so...
Oh, no. Well, you'll hear more about that in a couple of minutes, no doubt. Chris says, I've always been a Republican, but the Royals have offered... excuse me. Not a Republican from America. Not this sort of Republican.
I love the poorly educated.
But he loves the royal family. He absolutely loves them. He says, I've always been a Republican, but the Royals have offered some levity in these times. The thought of a family of talentless millionaires who owe their wealth to the privilege and exploitation of the country they are visiting, suddenly now looking bemused because they aren't welcomed with open arms is beyond comical. Yeah, it was pretty funny, because everywhere they go, they're like little crowds of cheering flag wavers. Oh, we love you. You know, all of that. And they must have been royally discombobulated to be greeted with boos. Get off our land, they said, but not in that accent. Quite right too. A little glint of reality has just invaded their lives. I'm still waiting for the Daily Mail to blame it on Hazza and Sparkles, though. Must be their fault. Has to be. You've muddied the water for them, Hazza. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Wow, look at that. I've wiped up all of the texts from last night, a couple from today, and I've taken about 3 or 4 calls. I'm doing very well. Right, so I want to talk about this Britannia Unchained thing, because I was going to mention this last night, but as I said before, I got diverted talking about the RMTs. Incredible. I mean, I read it with an open mouth. I was open-mouthed when I read it, when they were telling their members to vote for leave the European Union, for the following reasons, all of which could have been written by Jacob Rees-Mogg and his cavalcade of ghouls. None of which actually came true, all of which were a total lie. But they went ahead and voted for it anyway. How's it working out for you?
Oh, fabulous.
Exactly. If only somebody had said something. But I don't believe there was a single solitary person who said that it might not be a bad idea to leave the European Union. Not one single one. No one. Shame on everybody. But this Britannia Unchained thing, it does give you an idea of why it is that we are in the state we are. It's because we're being led by these people. They told us who they are. When somebody tells you who they are and you're appalled, believe them. Kwarteng Patel, angry angular, tetchy humanoid Dominic Deckchair Raab, Chris Skidmore, as in, who's Chris Skidmore? And Elizabeth... Elizabeth the Brains Truss. They said too many people in Britain prefer a lie-in to hard work.
What?
Yeah, that's what they think of us. I'll get into that in a minute. I also want to tell you about my dream last night. It's too weird. Very, very strange. I spent a lot of time with a certain bespectacled beanpole. Weird. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. It's just past 10:30. The news headlines. Wait a minute. With Serena Farrow. So here's that story about the fire. Cheshire Fire Service sent 6 fire engines to a blaze after it started just before 6:30 in the evening at Neston. So that was like 4 hours ago. An eyewitness described seeing a wall of flames that rapidly took hold of the area. The fire had covered approximately 500 square metres, the fire service said, with crews using hose reels and beaters to put out the flames. The service said police had been contacted as it was suspected that the fire had been started deliberately. Morons. We're surrounded by morons. Eyewitness Peter said there was no explosion, but the fire took hold rapidly, creating a wall of flames across the marshland. Marshland? How does a marshland catch fire? Let's talk to somebody who's around about there. Liverpool. Hello, Vincent.
All right, how are you, Nick? Are you okay?
Yeah, good, thanks. Can you see anything from your window?
That woman before talking about the rails on a coach. I remember bumping into Prince Charles in Victoria Station, funny enough, when he got off the National Express.
Oh, yeah.
But to be honest, in that, talking about P&O, how on earth can anyone do that? It's. I think it's nuts, isn't it, Nick, personally?
Well, they're doing it in order to maximise profitability.
No, I agree with you 100%, but how on earth it can be? Well, it's, I look at, as you said then before, the RMT, and people have coloured a piece of cardboard didn't save our ships. Absolutely ridiculous. But it shouldn't be able to happen, should it?
It wouldn't have happened if we'd probably still been... No, it might have happened if we'd been in the European Union, but it wouldn't have happened if we'd had the same labour laws as France or Spain or etc. and so on. It is to do with that. It's our special way of organising our labour laws that has been enacted by the Conservative government. Of course it is. I mean, there are foreign workers on those boats. Do they get fired? Can you see this fire outside your window, Vincent?
Sorry?
There's a fire in the Wirral, or there was anyway. Can you see it?
Well, it might be the Slim Panatella factory. No, I don't know. It's not far away from me, but I can't see the flames, to be honest.
The Slim Panatella factory?
It could be, yeah. One puff and it goes up. No,
right. Well, that's what they're made to do, yeah. All right, thanks a lot, Vincent. Slim Panatella. Is that still a thing? I can't believe that cigarettes are still a thing. I mean, come on, people. What are you doing? It's got to the point now that when I see somebody smoking a cigarette, it's just like I'm a bit stunned, really. You think, like, what are you doing? You've lit that thing and you've stuck it in your face. What for? You idiot. I mean, I don't mean to be judgmental, but you're an idiot, I think. Particularly young people. I mean, I sort of get if you're really old and you've been smoking for a good long while and it's difficult to give up. Not impossible, of course. It's just difficult. I don't want to, that. But young people, when you see some kids start smoking, you think, oh, crying out loud. Find some other way to look cool, you idiot. Anyway. June tweets, you should dream about the Mogster more often. You are positively frisky tonight. Yes. Yeah, that's right. He's put a wind in my sails.
Disgusting.
I had a dream about Jacob Rees-Mogg last night. Can you believe that?
No.
He's infested my brain. Well, I'll tell you about that in a minute. It was so bizarre. And there was so much detail in it. That's what but I guess dreams are always like that. It's just that I don't normally remember mine. I mean, you must dream all the time. I mean, every night you must have dreams, otherwise your brain will get scrambled. But I'd never remember my dreams, but I certainly remembered this. I remembered every tiny little thing about it, like everything. And I'll explain it later, in a minute. Wait. Folkestone, hello, Ian.
Hi.
Ian.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Nick. Great show as always.
Thanks.
I think that a lot of people talk about refugees, and like when you look at Folkestone, there's loads and loads of space available. Like there are empty buildings. The government is actually paying to keep up the facades of empty buildings. I think we could do a lot more. I don't think we're full. I think people use that, and they say that all the time.
People have been saying that this country is full for about 100 years.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't agree with it. Like, I go down the high street in Folkestone. There's businesses closing up. There's empty buildings all around. I just don't see it. And I understand why people are angry because of like P&O and that kind of thing. But that's on our head. That's not the EU. That's the only thing I hope. We've left the EU. Well, it's up to us. It's up to us. Like, we are treating our own people based on the laws of this country, not EU laws.
Not we. We aren't treating people. It's the government. I suppose by extension it's we, because we're the ones that vote them in over and over and over again, despite all experience telling you that you shouldn't, but we do anyway.
But we don't have anywhere to hide anymore. They can't blame it on the EU anymore.
Oh, but they do. They do, and they always will. First they blamed it on the EU, and then if that becomes too tiresome, then it will be COVID. And now, how lucky are they? Now they can blame everything that happens over the next 10 years on the war. It's Vladimir Putin's fault.
Boris Johnson, I think, is celebrating the fact that this war happened.
I bet
he gives a shit about people.
I bet he did a little happy clappy dance. Another massive excuse has come his way. How can he be that lucky?
Yeah, I know, because all Partygate is just blown away.
No,
and now he's trying to pretend like he's Churchill.
Yeah, exactly. What they're trying to do, and Smugs tried this on Friday, is to tell us to stop thinking about it. Do not stop thinking about it, people. Remind yourself. Just keep remembering that picture of the Queen sitting on her own at her husband's funeral. Looking just like a tiny pile of sadness because of the rules that Bodger and his crowd enacted, and they ignored immediately. They didn't ignore it a little while later. They told us, don't do this, don't do that. And then he left the lectern and went to bring your own bottle business meeting. Thanks a lot, Ian. 0345 6060 973. Do not forget it. They're telling you to forget it. So don't. Like that. Kwesi Kwarteng, Priti Patel, Dominic Deckchair Raab, Chris Skidmore and Elizabeth Truss said, too many people in Britain, we argue, prefer a lie-in to hard work. This is what they think of you. They branded Britons as among the worst idlers in the world and said the country should emulate the hard work ethic of Asia. These are the people that are running this country now. They wrote a book called Britannia Unchained. This is where we are going. I'll sum it up for you in one sound effect. Their vision, laid out in a book called Britannia Unchained, Global Growth and Prosperity. Not prosperity for you, mind. The MPs said that the UK had to raise its work ethic towards that of South Korea, Singapore and Hong Kong, rather than the office and factory culture in struggling European nations, they said. So I looked it up. I looked up how happy the average person is in those countries that these ghouls are portraying as nirvana. Because what's the point of life if it is not to maximise your happiness? I mean, does anybody get to the end of their life and say, God, I really wish that I'd earned a little bit more? On your deathbed, are you likely to say that? Are you likely to say on your deathbed, God, I should maybe have, done a 6-day week rather than a 5? If only I'd worked 50 hours a week, then I'd die happy. I looked up how happy the average person is in those countries that they are portraying as nirvana. And on the World Happiness Index, Singapore is 32nd. South Korea, 61st. Hong Kong, 75th. And oddly, 9 of the top 10 happiest people in the world are from those very same European nations that they think are such cesspits. Those struggling European nations, full of much happier people than the nations that they want us to emulate, like South Korea, Singapore and Hong Kong. And I wonder if that is by any chance because the workers are treated with respect and valued rather than exploited and used as assets by owners that cream off all the profits for themselves while giving their workforce a pittance. These people are leading us. Be afraid. In their book, Britannia Unchained, it's not like it's a secret, they actually wrote this stuff down. Britannia Unchained, written by Kwasi Kwarteng, Priti Patel, angular tetchy humanoid Dominic Deckchair Robb, Chris Skidmore, and Elizabeth the Brains Truss. They delivered a withering verdict on Britain's work ethic, claiming the state, including high taxes and a generous welfare system, has fueled laziness. Once they enter the workplace, the British are among the worst idlers in the world, they said. We work among the lowest hours, we retire early, and our productivity is poor. You know, these people want the lot of us stripped of employment rights so that we can be hired and fired on 0 hours contracts, keeping us desperate and pliant so that bosses and shareholders can reap all of the rewards of our labour. You know, just like what Jesus would do. Welfare gives people a safety net so that they can enjoy their lives and their work without the constant fear of becoming destitute. And as for productivity being poor in this country, that's right, it is. But it's not because the workers are lazy, it's because the bosses of companies strip their businesses of profits for themselves and their shareholders rather than reinvest it in the company. We have among the worst research and development investment in the Western world. And it's got nothing to do with the people who get wages and everything to do with the people who get remuneration. It's not our fault, it's theirs. Kwasi Kwarteng, Priti Patel, Dominic Deckchair Robb, Chris Skidmore, and by the way, Dominic Deckchair Robb could not be bothered to get out of a deck chair while Afghanistan was imploding. Telling us that we prefer a lion to hard work. These people, they said, along with the Brains Trust, the economic crisis should be a wake-up call of the need to rediscover the lost virtue of hard graft. Every single one of them has hands as soft as a baby's bottom. They actually had the nerve to write, the British are among the worst idlers in the world. We work among the lowest hours. We retire early and our productivity is poor. Whereas Indian children aspire to be doctors or businessmen, the British are more interested in football and pop music. Wow. What they think of us little people, not leprechauns. It sounds like they don't love our country to me. They certainly don't love our country persons. Sounds borderline traitorous. They warn that the country is being dragged down by a bloated public sector, poor productivity, years of excessive spending, too little growth, and increasingly large public sector pension liabilities. They want us poor and needy, and they want the unions gone, and they want the employment laws torn up, and they want lower taxes for the rich, because lower taxes always favour the rich, and they want less spending on the poor and those in need. Just look at their voting records. I don't even need to look it up. I bet every single one of them has consistently voted against the interests of those in need and for the interests of the rich. Check it out if you don't believe me. It's all on a website called They Work For You. And of course they do all that while claiming that they are guided by their faith.
Oh, fabulous.
What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, that reminds me, I must tell you about my dream about Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Oh, hello.
It's too weird. Patrick says, hi, Nick. Ukraine elected a comedian and got a leader. Britain voted for a leader and ended up with a bad joke. Memo to Mr. Zelensky, when you're done running things over there, come over here. The job is yours. Yeah, we should put in a bid. Like a football coach. Anytime you're ready, Mr. Zelensky. Big fan of your work. Let's have a call in Knightsbridge. Hello, Freddie.
Hey, Nick.
Freddie.
Nice to see you in a while. I haven't called you. It's nice to hear that you're back on form again. I just wanted to say, whenever I've called you up, I've always said I've missed Jeremy Corbyn, but now that everything's happening wrong with Ukraine, I just wonder, because Corbyn's inherently anti-Trident, I think, and I just wondered what you thought, if he was in power with the whole Ukraine thing, and then if we didn't have a nuclear deterrent, how would things unfold? What would your thoughts be?
My thoughts about that are, having a nuclear deterrent depends on mutually assured destruction, which is ironically MAD, mad, which only works if both sides are sane. If one side is mad, then they will, and they're mad enough to let off a rocket, then they are also mad enough not to care about the consequences of a rocket coming back at them. So it's really pointless.
Okay, so maybe we should have Jeremy Corbyn. I'd miss him.
All right, I'll see what I can do, Freddie. It would. I think that the country would be run a lot better. I very much doubt that if the government under Jeremy Corbyn would be up to its eyeballs in Russian money. I mean, can you imagine it? Can you imagine the right-wing press in this country if Jeremy Corbyn had accepted a ruble from a single solitary person with connection to Vlad the Insaner? They would have printed nothing else for years. It would have been on pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and a full-colour, pull-out, souvenir edition inside. They would never have stopped going on about it. But when His Imperial Bogenus does it, then, that's just Boris. It was baked in. We knew what we were voting for. Isn't he cute? He's doing his best. There's a phrase I haven't heard in a while. He's doing his best. Are you, in fact, doing your best, Bodge?
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Yes?
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Mm-hmm.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Sure.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Yeah, right. Sure you did. Well, that's as believable as anything else you've ever said. And about that P&O thing, I mean, I mentioned this yesterday. They were questioned, did you know that P&O were going to sack all those workers before they actually did it? And they said...
No.
And furthermore, they said...
No.
And they were questioned, are you absolutely sure that you didn't know anything about it?
Negative.
They said. Are you sure you didn't know a single solitary thing about it before it happened?
No.
No, they said. Asked again, did you know before it happened? And they said...
No.
And then, to absolutely nobody's surprise, they said in a whisper, oh, the P&O thing. Oh, yeah. We knew about that. They knew about it the day before. They didn't say anything and they didn't do anything. He was actually in blooming Dubai. And he didn't say anything and he didn't do anything. That's because it's not an accident, it's the plan. Stripping us of our rights is the reason that we left the European Union. I know that they said, sovereignty. And people thought, yeah, that's right, sovereignty. And I challenge you to actually tell me what that means. Smug was saying that just the other day. Oh, well, of course, sovereignty. Pushes his glasses up his nose. Sovereignty. He can't think of a single thing that has been a benefit of Brexit. Everything they promised us was a lie. And he's so bereft of ideas about what a positive outcome of Brexit might be, one single one, that he's outsourced the thinking to us lot. He actually asked us to come up with a Brexit positive, because he can't think of one himself. The only thing he could come up with is instigating an inquiry into reinstalling imperial measurements. That's where we're at. Now, I don't know whether that was just him scrabbling around in desperation trying to come up with something that might appeal to, the elderly who actually got us into this mess. Thanks a lot, Granny. But, or whether it's just top-class industrial-level gaslighting. What can we say to them today? Imperial measurements. Oh, lovely. Yeah, inches and feet. That'll get global Britain back on the world stage. Pounds and ounces. Oh, it's excruciating. Anyway, I had a dream about him last night. Can you believe that?
No.
I couldn't. I woke up, well, I wasn't drenched with the sweat exactly, but I was a little bit confused. Why am I dreaming about him, I thought? Everybody remained clothed throughout. You'll be glad to know. But I'll talk about that in just a minute. The detail was, plentiful. There was just no end of it. It was like watching a film. Worst film ever. 0345 6060 973. Who would play Jacob Rees-Mogg in a film featuring him? I think it would be one of the Flower Pot men. Because, they're sort of floppy and brainless. Yeah, I think that's it. Of course, nobody under the age of 60 has got any idea what I'm talking about. Have you got any idea what I'm talking about? The Flower Pot men?
Bill and Ben, the Flower Pot men.
There you go. They do teach them something in school these days. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
Hang about, Nick. Listen. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is this, Nick, right?
0345 6060 973. Derek tweets, work ethics. Perhaps we in the UK should all be working two jobs like our hard-working MPs. Oh, there was a priceless piece in... I sound like a pheromone. Is that the name of that instrument? Is it a theramone? Theramone.
Rock and roll!
It was in... wait a minute. One moment, please. Aha. It was in Open Democracy. You know, this is one thing that I meant to get onto yesterday. There's so many things. I'm up to my eyeballs in stuff. I'm very, very busy. MPs' second jobs. Apart from them awarding themselves a pay rise and then pretending, it's got nothing to do with us, it's an independent, independently adjudicated. Yeah, weird that once they hived off them, the decision-making on what kind of a pay rise they should get, because they used to decide it themselves. They used to just think up a number and double it. And interestingly... Now they, because they got it in the neck from us poor dopes who pay taxes. They said, OK then, we'll give the decision on who gives us a pay rise to somebody else. An independent body. Independent, they said. Groovy. That was the wrong one. I didn't mean to hit that one. It was meant to be this one. They both start with G, you see, groovy and goofy. Very, very alike. They shouldn't be so close together. All my fault. I shouldn't be allowed in charge of this show, seriously. What am I doing on the air? Is this thing on? What was I saying? What was I saying? Yes. Exactly. pay rise. Oh, pay rise, yeah. The MPs, so they hived it off to this supposedly independent body, which has given them more of a pay rise over the years than they could possibly have thought they could get away with themselves. Isn't that curious? Strange. Independent, my eye. Anyway, they've been awarded a pay rise for excellence in being them, and they've also dropped that MP's second jobs thing, just like we thought they would do. I mean, good grief! Talk about excellent time to bury bad news. All they needed is a little light war. They could try and slip this by us. Plans to cap MPs' earnings from second jobs have been dropped months after the issue provoked a scandal that plunged Boris Johnson's government into crisis. They have dropped the plans to cap MPs' earnings from second jobs.
What?
Ministers told the Common Standards Committee... Ministers told the Common Standards Committee that a time limit or ceiling on such earnings would be impractical. Impractical. Let's look up the definition of impractical in the dictionary. It means something the Tories don't want to do.
Correct.
Impractical. You remember last year, God, it seems so long ago, after the Owen Paterson lobbying scandal and a furore over Geoffrey Cox being paid nearly £6 million as a lawyer since joining Parliament, for crying out loud, voting by proxy on days that he was undertaking paid work. After all that, the Prime Minister pledged to clamp down on MPs' second jobs. I promised to do it, he said. Liar! Angular tetchy humanoid Dominic Deckchair Raab said you could do it in one of two ways. You could do it by the amount, or you could do it by the number of hours. So they found a third way and decided not to do it at all.
Oh, fabulous.
You will be stunned to learn that the government says it no longer backs such limits on second jobs to being able to earn as much cash as possible while they're also being paid to do what should be the full-time job of representing their constituents. Us poor dopes what pay taxes. I mean, that would be like asking the Conservative Party if they wouldn't mind awfully not taking money from a kleptocratic regime intent on subverting democracy in this country. It's too much to ask. Let's be reasonable. The conclusion from Steve Barclay, the preposterously titled Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, and Mark Spencer, the leader of the House of Commons, said, "It is the government's initial view that the imposition of fixed constraints such as time limits on the amount of time that members can spend on outside work would be impractical." Impractical. Not for us to question why. Apparently they can't live on a mere £82,000 a year, plus £250,000 in expenses and all the rubles they can fit in a suitcase, and that's the end of it. They said, don't question us, peasant. Numerous largely Conservative MPs responded to the consultation on their standards regime with a wide range of criticisms. Tory MP Craig Whittaker described some of the proposals on limits and declaring contracts for second jobs as more nonsense, he said. Puh! Philip Dunn, a Tory MP and former minister with a second job that pays him $3,400 a month as a non-executive director, warned that a system to ban parliamentary consultancy had led to the loss of experienced and qualified experts from parliamentary discourse. Or in other words, the Committee on Standards released its proposals for the Code of Conduct in November. It said MPs should face a complete ban on working as paid consultants, and ministers should be more open about any potential conflicts of interest. Other recommendations included an obligation for MPs to have a written contract for any outside work available for inspection, and which would spell out that they cannot lobby on behalf of the employer. It also raised the possibility of limits on how much time MPs can spend on outside jobs or other interests, and how much they can be paid for them, but said that this would need cross-party support. But as the Tories are about as likely to vote for that as they are to open their second homes to a refugee, that's not going to happen, is it? They said, no, 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 no. And some of the excuses they gave are priceless. I have detailed files. You wouldn't believe it. I'll get to that in a minute. Top 5 excuses from Tory MPs about why it would be against the interests of this country for them not to be able to do other work while they're supposed to be doing their actual jobs. It's great. As in G-A-R-G-R-A-T-E. Yeah, great. That great. Wait a minute. Nottingham. Richard.
Hello.
Richard.
Yes, mate.
You called me?
I did. I mean, I can remember the 60s. I know you're far too young to remember the 60s. But we had a really good chance in the 60s and early 70s to emulate the German way of manufacturing, which was unions and management working together.
Yeah.
But we had two small problems. The unions were a little too quick to go on strike, and the management had got no intention of ever putting enough money into new equipment to make us competitive.
That is the reason why our productivity level is low.
Yes.
That part is true.
I
What they said is...
I went for a job at a very large company in the mid-80s. They employed nearly 700 people. And the company I left employed 50 people. Both of them had got 3 brake presses. You don't know what they are, it doesn't matter. But the big company I went to had got 1 brake press there that was made in 1932.
Right, exactly.
And then the newest one was made in 1960.
Because British management...
This was 1985.
British management, more so than practically any other country in the world, ploughs all their profits into themselves, not into the business. That's why productivity is low. It's not the workers, it's the management.
I think you'll find if you look it up that legally public registered companies are obliged to look after their shareholders first,
right?
Not the employees.
Correct.
Which is why they're more interested in paying dividends than they are in buying new machinery.
Yeah, but they would, even if it wasn't in law, if it had nothing to do with the law, they'd still be doing that. They'd be showering themselves with every penny they can get hold of, rather than put it back into
it's not just the Tories. I mean, it's been going on since Margaret Thatcher, this knocking the unions all the time. I mean, it's been going on now since the late 70s.
Right. Well, Margaret Thatcher was a Tory.
Ted Heath, in fact. Ted Heath first started this.
He was a Tory
knocking
too.
the unions.
Yeah.
And this is what the P&O thing. I mean, that's also partly to do with maritime law, of course, because a lot of maritime law goes back to 200 years. It really wanted redoing years ago.
Does anybody know if the foreign crew on these P&O boats got fired? I mean, are there any Spanish people on those boats that got fired, or any French people on those boats that got fired, or Germans, or was it just the Brits?
I don't know. There's 800 of them. So, I mean, they said they employed another 2,000 odd. I don't know what they do. I don't know whether they were talking about the cruise liners or whether they were talking about people who were staffing the offices.
You'd think that would have come up, but I haven't read a single solitary word about it. Leave it with me, Richard, and I'll have a full report on your desk first thing in the morning. Thanks a lot, mate. Very loud. So back off the phone a couple of feet there, Richard. Matt texts, Boris is the reason we're in this mess. I'm a Tory to the core, but I would never vote for this idiot again. I'm embarrassed to be British at the minute. He's embarrassed about you, Bodge. I can't imagine why.
Peppa Pig World. Peppa Pig World is it has
yes.
Peppa Pig
is the right answer. Very good. He's a good bodger. Bath. Hello, Laura.
Hi, Nick. I'm back.
Who's back?
I'm back.
Oh, you, Laura. Who are you?
I went to live in South Korea for a year.
You mean you're back from South Korea?
Yeah, I used to call you on here, and then I went to South Korea, and I was too busy. But
because
now I'm back.
I've been sitting here for a year thinking, where's Laura?
Well, I'm back now, so.
Right. Well, thank goodness for that. And
by the way,
not a moment too soon, by the way. You wouldn't believe the stuff that's happened since you've been gone.
Yeah, but you stayed just exactly the same, so.
Well, I don't know whether to be offended by that. I think I've decided to be offended by that.
But it's a comfort, you know, with the rest of the country spinning into chaos,
Right.
Nick. So,
I'm a comfort, like a stuffed cushion.
Yeah, well, you'll be using one of those tonight when you have another dream about Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Steady.
So, what was I going to say? Yeah, it's a theremin, that musical instrument.
A theremin, right.
Yeah. And
sounds a bit like that.
oh, it's a lot more unpleasant than that.
It's
but,
a bit. It's a Doctor Who thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
that's
that.
right.
Yeah.
And the pheromones are those things that come out of like cats and stuff like that.
Oh.
Not that. Anyway, so
It comes out of cats. That's an awful thing to say, Laura.
well, if you Google it,
I certainly will do
sort of-
nothing of the sort.
Well, anyway, what I wanted to talk to you about was you talked about happiness in places like Singapore and South Korea.
HAPPY-ness. Yes.
Yes. So I thought I'd give my sort of.
Okay, well, you've just come back from a year in South Korea. What's it like?
Yeah. I mean, when I was working there, so the people didn't seem super happy like they do in Norway. I visited Norway and they do look visibly happy.
Oh, are they ever? That is the sound everywhere you walk in Norway. Because, apart from anything else, they get to have hot 6-foot blonde Norwegian interface with each other.
Disgusting.
But the irony is that in terms of, like, convenience, South Korea has all these amazing things, like they have the best delivery services in the world, the technology is amazing, versus in Norway where a lot of stuff is actually inconvenient. But no, the people are not happy, and they have these, they have their own version of oligarchs, and there's something called a chaebol, which is like a family that owns stuff like Samsung has a chaebol, and it means they can influence the politics that go on in the nation, and people are very complicit with it. Age is really important over there, so you can't be rude to older people even if they're not being nice to you, and they just put up with it. Yeah,
Can you imagine that, kids?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, yeah. So that was quite hard to get used to. Not that I enjoy being rude to older people, but it was...
Especially selected older people, yes, but not in general. Yeah.
Yeah, but, you can be as unreasonable as you like out there. If you're old, you have a free pass.
Wow.
Is basically how it is.
Well, it sounds like a great place to take a holiday after a certain age, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. But, yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, they texted you about it last night, but you or your producer didn't pick it up, is...
My evil producer didn't pick it up. Yeah.
I've been cooking a lot of vegan food recently, and I wanted to know your thoughts on that, as you're the same age as my dad. And in his case, I sneak it into a lot of his food, and he doesn't, he's none the wiser. I'm
perfectly fine with a plate of vegan food alongside sausages and bacon.
Okay, well, he probably says the same thing.
Same thing, yeah. No, I spent 20 years not a vegan, mind. I was a vegetarian, although I did eat fish, so not really a vegetarian at all. But for most of 20 years, I didn't eat any meat. So it's just fine with me, as long as it tastes nice. I mean, you can have meat meals that taste awful and vegan meals that taste awful. What does your food taste like?
Mine's really good.
Well, there you are, and you see, really good. Then that sounds really good. Laura, I'm going to have to go, because look at the time. 0345 6060 973. I haven't told you about my my dream about smug yet. I'll do that in a minute. 0345 6060 973. Nick Abbot, LBC.
Right, so what are we doing?
Given we're doing a radio show, but it does remind me that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin.
No.
Yes. Carol McGiffin and I, the delightful Carol McGiffin and I, solve people's problems while laughing like drains. It's called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol. Now, if you want us to solve your problem, then you've got to send it to us. We're not mind readers. And the address is nickandcarol@global.com. NICKAND carol@global.com, and prepare to be mildly satisfied.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's available on the World Wide Wait. On an internet near you, ask for it by name. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? If you have Global Player, it's on there. It's on there along with the other two podcasts that I do. But if you just want to just check out from the from doom scrolling and this misery, this sort of this soup of misery that we're all wading through at the moment, and you just want to let your mind flow free, turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream.
Yowza.
And if you want a laugh, then it'll be right up your alley. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? It's on Global Player. Do a search on my name, Nick Abbott Podcast, and it will come up as though by magic. 0345 6060 973. Derek tweets, work ethics. Perhaps we in the UK should all be working two jobs like our hard-working MPs. Right, this is a collection by Open Democracy, the website, of MPs' excuses for keeping their high-value second jobs. You ready? Several MPs submitted written evidence as part of the Parliamentary Standards Committee's consultation over changes to the MP's Code of Conduct, launched in the wake of the Owen Paterson lobbying scandal in November. The former Tory MP, Owen Paterson, broke parliamentary rules by lobbying on behalf of two companies from whom he received at least £500,000 in payments. No! In response, Bodger Johnson said,
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
He proposed setting limits on MPs' second jobs. He actually said that out loud. Anybody believe him?
No.
Of course not. Boris Johnson himself proposed setting limits on MPs' second jobs and banning paid consultancy work, which Tories unanimously voted in favour of until they didn't. Big surprise, they did not go ahead with that. This week, the government rode back on its plan, writing in a submission to the Standards Committee that a cap on how much time MPs spend on second jobs and how much they earn would be impractical. In other words, it would mean that they make less money doing other stuff while they were supposed to be working for us, so no deal. A number of MPs objected to the proposal, despite having backed it just 4 months ago in their submissions to the committee. Now, when they voted for this proposal, oh, yeah, that's right, we want to, axe all these second jobs. Goodness me, no, we don't want to do those. It's bringing the House into disrepute. They must have thought in the back of their mind, yeah, well, we'll make a big show about this in public now, and then in a couple of months we'll just slip it out on a quiet Friday, perhaps just before the House rises for one of its numerous holidays, and we'll just get out of it that way. Little did they know that a light war would break out, and they could slip anything they blooming well liked under our noses and we wouldn't notice. So a number of MPs objected to this proposal to ban second jobs, despite having backed it just 4 months ago. Here are some of the reasons they gave. The public should find it reassuring that MPs are being paid high sums for second jobs, said one anonymous MP. It should be reassuring that they are highly valued in their field. You getting this? We should be reassured that they, instead of working for us, for which we pay them 80-odd grand a year and £250,000 in expenses, we should be grateful that they're not doing that and they're doing something else, that they're being highly paid doing something else, because we should take comfort that they are highly valued in a different field to the one that which we're paying them for. Second excuse, it would make HGV drivers, the shortage of HGV drivers, worse if we stop them doing their second jobs. An anonymous MP said the cap was utterly unacceptable because it would be wholly wrong to determine what type of external role is acceptable or not, and gave the example of a lorry driver as 1 second job that an MP could do, which would be absolutely essential. How many MPs are currently employed as lorry drivers?
And one.
No.
Two.
No.
11.
No. Try again.
And one.
No.
Two.
No.
6 million.
No. Another one said that MPs need multiple jobs to make ends meet. A third anonymous MP suggested that MPs need second jobs to get by. He said, "We all have to choose our work-life balance, and many of our constituents juggle multiple jobs to make ends meet, and I don't see us MPs as being any different." Apart from the fact that they earn a basic annual salary of over £80,000 a year, which is set to rise to £84,144 next month, which is about 3 times more than the UK average salary. And most people don't get £250,000 in expenses on top. But apart from that, he's got a good point. Here's another one. The government's initial recommendations propose that reasonable limits are set on outside activities. Outside activities.
86%.
Whoa, sorry. Keep that phrase in mind. Outside activities. Now, most interpreted the phrase outside activities that should be kept to a reasonable limit. Most interpreted that wording to refer to paid work. Tory MP Dan Poulter suggested that it would not be acceptable because outside activities might mean spending time with his children. I am not making that up. Tory MP Dan Poulter suggested that spending time with his own children might constitute an outside activity. Tory MP Bill Wiggin argued that limiting time or limiting income does not improve the honesty and integrity of the system. It just creates more opportunity for errors. He said more rules mean more training, and more training means more opportunities to make a mistake. The Hertfordshire MP was one of the 10 highest earning MPs last year, receiving more than £80,000 for outside work. They are literally laughing in our faces. They must have had a bet on as to who could come up with the most ridiculous excuse. Heads they win, tails we lose. 0345 6060 973. It's just past 11:30 on LBC. The news headlines with Serena Farrow.
Words, more words.
It's all just words. Philip texts, the Parliamentary Standards Committee is an oxymoronic organisation. Yeah, and they're overseeing a bunch of oxymorons. Alice texts, David Cameron's just got a new job driving a lorry. That's right. Yes. So he has, yeah. James texts, in other news, Turkeys have voted against Christmas, declaring it to be impractical. That is what Turkeys said. Right, let's have a call in. Wait a minute. Who's been waiting the longest? Totally fair about this. Regent's Park. Hello, Vance.
Hi, Nick. Thank you, as ever, for keeping us entertained and sane.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Nick, your mention of Britannia Unchained has sort of unlocked a floodgate in my mind, really.
A floodgate in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, who are these intellectual and moral pygmies, like Dominic Raab and Liz Truss and so forth, to be telling us how we should, work and make our lives? They talk about productivity, in places like Singapore, South Korea. They haven't competed for jobs themselves internationally. They've all just got a single undergraduate degree and then gone into the pusillanimous world of parliamentary politics. They know nothing about smart working. They think they can lecture us on how the rest of the world behaves.
Well, they certainly do know nothing about graft, which is the word that they used.
Absolutely. Or even smart. I mean, I'll just give you an example. Rees-Mogg. Okay, he brought out his book on eminent Victorians about 3 or 4 years ago, right?
Did you read the reviews to that?
I did. I've even got a copy of the book.
Have you, really?
I've even got a copy of the book and paid myself to read it. Amongst the 12 eminent Victorians he writes about, there's only one woman, that's Queen Victoria.
Yeah.
What about Florence Nightingale? She didn't just have hospitals in Crimea. She became England's finest statistician before her death. What about Elizabeth Garrett Anderson, who pioneered the role of women in medicine? Okay,
Jacob Rees-Mogg is what a stupid person would think an intellectual would be like, and it's what a poor person would think as a posh person would be like. He's just a 6-foot pile of tics and affectations. No, we're going to have to lose you there. I'm sorry, mate. That's the kind of language we can't have on the radio. Did not expect that from him. Wow, he used builder's speak.
Disgusting.
Now, you can hear that kind of language on television after 9 o'clock in the evening. In fact, it's pretty much compulsory after 9 o'clock in the evening. Every single programme has got language like that on TV after 9, including the news, if you can believe that. Here is the bleeping news, they say. But not on the radio, apparently. You can see somebody say it, but you can't hear somebody say it. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. Anyway, better luck next time, mate. You get a red mark against your name. Henry texts, "Hi, Nick. It looks like the Tories who wrote that book of gaslighting are longing to get back to the feudal system. My observation is that Brits are expected to work overtime without pay, get no compensation for working time or cost for their commute, and should accept that a role with a week's notice is a permanent position. This is ridiculous," says Henry. That is, I believe, one of the 2 major reasons why we were persuaded to leave the European Union. So that this red tape, this bonfire of red tape that they were talking about, that we were sold as it was going to free us. No. It's going to chain us. That's what the red tape is. The red tape was protecting us from abuse and mistreatment. If they can just get rid of the red tape, then they can have us all working 0 hours at minimum pay, and all of the profits can go to management and shareholders. Because at the moment, those pesky workers, they do insist on being paid for what they do. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's, this is money that could be distributed as bonuses to management. So these blooming workers, they need to be stripped of all of their rights, and they can only do that outside the EU. That was reason 1. Reason 2 is the EU is going to bring in some sort of checks and oversight on tax havens, and the rich, the only thing that they appear to be remotely interested in is paying less tax. It seems to be not just their number 1 priority, it's their only priority. And so that would be a much easier proposition outside the EU. Those were the reasons we left the EU, but they can't sell it to us for those reasons, so they came up with a lot of other stuff. Sovereignty, they kept saying over and over again. And you ask some furious Brexiter about the positives of leaving the EU, and that's one of the things that they'll say first. And then you ask them what that means, and you're greeted with, you've got no idea. It just sounds good. Basically, the idea is that your life is not as you wished it would be because the people below you are dragging you down. Whereas the truth of it is, it's not the people below you that are the problem. It's the people above you that are pushing you down. They just don't want you to realise what's happening. And too many people don't question it. They just read what they already agree with. They push the opinion that they've already arrived at, and just it's reinforced over and over and over again. So that's what you get. So, sovereignty. We're free now. Really, your life has changed in some deep and fundamental way. Now that you're free, you're floating free. We've been had. This country has been had. It's I think it's fundamentally a coup has happened. We just don't realise it yet. Well, many of us don't. Henry says, looks like the tourist who wrote that book of gaslighting, I've just read that one. I'm repeating myself. Jim says, instead of giving MPs a pay rise, how about if we all stand outside our front doors and give them a clap? Good idea, Jim. Every Thursday for a couple of months, we'll stand outside our front doors for a minute and bang pots together. There you are. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I still haven't told you about my dream about Jacob Rees-Mogg, have I? You must remind me to tell you before I go. I wonder if I'll have another one tonight. Maybe I'll have a dream about his nanny. I also want to talk about the... I'm running out of time. I want to talk about the conference today. Oh, my God. I know what they're going to sell the next election on, because we've heard it already today. One word. One four-letter word. And they said it over and over and over again. This is what they're planning now. This is how bereft they are of ideas. This is where we are now as a country. They're going to sell it to us on this one four-letter word. And I'll come to that in a minute. Unless I forget. Detroit. Roland.
Hi. Don't forget to tell your story about Moggy.
I'll try not to forget. I'm writing it down as we speak.
Good. I just wanted to let you guys know that where I live in Detroit, and this might not be the same for the whole of the United States, but here in Michigan, if when you start a new job, but you're lucky if you get 5 days holiday a year.
Yeah, Americans get no holiday.
None.
Like two weeks
and
maximum.
There's also a system called fire at will, which means they can fire you at will for any reason, any time.
Yeah. This is where we're going, kids. It's the American system of winner takes it all, rather than the European system, which spreads the wealth around a bit more evenly. Have you gone?
No, I'm still here.
Ah. What are you doing?
I was waiting for you to finish.
Oh, right. I'm done. Sounds like you're cooking. You're like mucking about in the kitchen.
I'm about to start cooking.
Well, what are you going to cook?
How did you know?
What are you going to cook?
I'm doing chicken thighs.
Oh. They should call it something else. Well, you should have said. They should call it something else. Thighs. I don't want to eat thighs. That sounds like
It's the best. It's the best part of the chicken. It's boneless and skinless.
Absolutely isn't.
Absolutely is.
Well,
if you had it cooked by Roland London, it is.
Oh, okay then. All right. Well, I'll be waiting. If it's not here within 30 minutes, it's free. All right.
Hey, you are by far my partner's favourite presenter on LBC. We listen to you as we drive up into the thumb here in the mitten.
Okay. Well, that's great. What about you? My partner.
The jury's still out.
Yeah, all right. Okay, thanks a lot, Roland. I want mine extra crispy. 0345 6060 973. Nick tweets, my impression of Jacob Rees-Mogg is frighteningly accurate. It's so good that I have to ask if they've ever been seen in the same room at the same time. Yes, in my dream. I'll get to that in a minute. Carnforth. Hey, Penny.
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Great, mate.
Nice to hear the MPs are all queuing up to help out with the lorry driver shortage, eh?
Yeah, sure they are.
Yes. Yeah, and you just can't believe how dreadful that lot are, that ridiculous...
They get worse and worse with every passing day.
Yeah, it does just get worse and worse. I mean, really, obviously, the way British industry is run is they don't put enough money into research, and no wonder, we're not as productive as other countries.
No,
but
that is the reason why we have among the lowest level of reinvestment into businesses in the Western world, with the result that we have among the lowest levels of productivity. It's not the people, it's not the workers, it's the management.
No, and it's not the hours they work either. We work far longer hours than a lot of other countries in Europe.
Correct.
In fact, our carers regularly work 15-hour days, sometimes with no breaks, and that's because they're so short-staffed at the moment.
Right.
Obviously made worse by Brexit.
And that's what they want. They want you to work until you drop for a minimum wage. They want you constantly desperate and pliable.
Yeah, definitely. And also that nonsense about, they said, the benefits were just too generous. I think you must be joking. We have some of the lowest benefit rates in Europe and the lowest old age pension in Europe, in comparable European countries.
The welfare is too generous, said millionaires on 85 grand a year, plus $250,000 in expenses. Yeah, too generous.
And they're unbelievable, really. They're just constantly... They are just gaslighting us, aren't they, really? And people still seem to... I mean, like that woman that came on your show last night and said, life was
mean.
Always... Yes, you've been mean and life was always better when there was a Tory government since the 1970s. And I was thinking, well, I remember the 1970s. Actually, I seem to remember the health service was a lot better in the 1970s than it is now. At least you didn't have to wait. I had to call an ambulance last weekend, actually, it was.
And it still hasn't got there?
No, just about. Well, I was having really, really bad chest pains, and I'd been told by 111, a doctor on 111, to ring for an ambulance. And they said, it could be up to 7 hours.
Wow.
They said, it probably won't be, and if you get any worse, just ring us back. And actually, it was an hour and a half, and this was having really bad chest pains. Fortunately, it turned out not to be a heart attack, but obviously that's why the doctor said, no, dial 999 straight away. It was something else to do with a procedure I'd had a couple of days before. But it could have been a heart attack, and if it had, I'd probably be dead. I probably wouldn't be talking to you now.
Yeah.
And the guys in the ambulance, 2 lovely paramedics took me, and they hadn't had a break either. They were so busy, they hadn't been able to stop for their break.
This is where we're going. We are going towards where America is now. If you are rich, you'll be just fine. If you aren't, be afraid. Irani, I'm past a break. I've got to go. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Nick Abbot, LBC.
I really like you. Do you like me?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Sid texts, I remember a headline describing Corbyn as the most dangerous man in Britain. It is excruciating. The Tories are loathsome, says Sid. Well, don't sit on the fence there, Sid. Tell us what you think. Chris texts, seriously, Nick, back to the Boris bashing. You are so Labour, it's unbelievable. You definitely didn't vote Green Party, not now, not ever. I did actually, Chris. Yes, I did. Just because you think something doesn't make you an expert. How can you possibly know how I voted? I did vote Green. A couple of times to my recent memory. Not last time. Last time I voted Lib Dem. Groovy. Because they were the most likely to beat the you-know-whos. Back to the Boris bashing. Oh, leave him alone. He's doing his best. Hey, Chris. These fans just will... It's like a cult. They are all in. Like a poker player with a hand of a pair of twos and all of their money on the table in front of them. I still haven't told you about my dream with Smug. I'll do that in a minute. I promise I'll do it in a minute. By the way, if you missed my unhinged rant about Jacob Rees-Mogg last night, I do believe that the podcast is available right now. We stick these shows up the internet. We take the news and the ads out. It takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity, and you'll still be breaking up your furniture to set on fire to heat your house. Because you won't be able to afford your fuel bill. Your fuel bill. That part was understood, right? Maybe not. It's called Nick Abbott, the whole show. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. Andy says, Nick, do you think these people who say the British prefer a nice lie into hard work are talking about you? What, me? After all, you don't start work till 10 at night. Well, that is true, yeah. I work a 3-hour day. Don't start picking on me. Chester. Hello, Richard.
Hi, you all right, Nick?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Right, yeah, it's just about Neston, Parkgate. It's actually quite an important nature reserve for birds, so there's going to be a lot of damage.
Oh, you're talking about this, right, there's a fire. It's not still burning, surely?
I think they've got it under control. Some of the updates, they put fire breaks in to try and stop the wind from blowing it and making it worse.
Right.
So
but they're
going to be there for the next few hours.
It's marshland. You'd think it would be wet.
Well, yeah, you'd think so, but yeah, apparently it's going to have caused a lot of damage, like to the wildlife, some endangered bird species, birds of prey, things like that.
Right.
So it's a very popular spot. There's an old ice cream shop there that's been there for probably decades. That people take their families to walk the dogs.
And what's it called
go
again?
Get ice cream. Parkgate in Neston.
Parkgate in Neston, right?
Yeah, it's actually on the D estuary, so it'd be unlikely for Liverpool to see it. So it's facing North Wales. It is.
Oh, right.
On that part of the peninsula.
Right, Rhyl, Prestatyn, places like that.
Yes, exactly, facing that way. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's bad news. I guess we'll find out more about it come the morning. All right.
Yeah.
Good work.
No
Thanks a
worries.
lot, Richard. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. Dave texts, another reason for Brexit is removing our freedom of movement so we can't escape their hyper-capitalist hellhole. That's right. Yeah, they're building a wall, just like the person that they base their whole credo on.
I'm building a wall, okay? I'm building a wall. I'm building a wall, okay? I'm building a wall.
We thought that it was a wall to keep the people out. Actually, it's worse than that. It's a wall to keep us in. Let's have a mobile. Don't really know where you are. Where are you, Terry?
Aylsham.
Aylsham, right. So, what's up?
Why are people surprised about the P&O workers? This has been going on for 40 years, this hostile environment for working people.
In this country, yeah.
In this country. Why are they all shocked? Oh, all of a sudden, people have got the sack and foreign workers are taking their jobs for less money.
Mm.
And why are they suddenly shocked? This has been going on for ages.
Well, I think that people might be suddenly realising that all of those promises about leaving the European Union were just a bunch of lies, because as far as I remember, we were leaving the European Union, we were told, because we didn't want foreigners taking our jobs. But look what happens.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it, really?
Yeah, irony. Yeah, that's right. All right, thanks a lot, Terry. 0345 6060 973. Jim texts, productivity isn't just made up of worker input. A country's productivity is also severely impacted by the quality of its infrastructure, like transport networks, healthcare and utilities, all underfunded and falling apart. That's right. Yeah. I mean, compared to Europe, our healthcare particularly is abysmal. I mean, we have among the lowest numbers of hospital beds, the lowest numbers of nurses, the lowest numbers of doctors, of consultants, of you name it. We have the lowest numbers of machines that go bing than pretty much any other country in Europe, which is the reason why you can't get an appointment. You can't see your GP, and you can't see a nurse, and you can't see a consultant, and you absolutely, totally and flat out can't get treated for whatever ails you. We have one of the worst outcomes of most diseases of any major country in the West. If only Jeremy Corbyn hadn't been leading this country for the last 12 years under this disastrous Labour government. Oh, no, that's right. Wasn't him, was it? So it's probably still his fault. Thanks a lot, Jeremy Corbyn. Bill! You see what you've done? Right, in the next hour, I want to talk about this campaign. It started already. It started quietly with Smug on Friday. That bloke. And it ramped up into overdrive today at the Tory party conference, which is going on in Blackpool. I bet most of those people there at the Tory party conference wouldn't be able to point to Blackpool on a map. They had to get driven there. And it's a 4-letter word, and they're going to be peppering us with it. This must be the plan. I wonder what it might be. They've also got a new slogan. So I'll come to that in a minute. And I absolutely flat out and totally will do Jacob Rees-Mogg infesting my mind. I dreamt about him last night. Me and Jacob sitting in a tree. Not like that. So I'll do both of those things and plenty else besides when I come back. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
And I can't stand him.
0345 6060 973. Keith texts, it's called a controlled demolition of the NHS. That's right. People are just skirting the NHS now because they know that their treatment, whatever ails them, is not going to be treated. But, before either it will cure itself or they'll die before they get treated, so they're going private. And that's the plan. It's not a mistake. It's not an error. It's a plan. We're going the way of America because, and I'll say it again, every single thing that our regime do is guided by the principle, what would Donald Trump do?
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
If you just think of every single thing they do and then think, what would Donald Trump do? And it's that. It's whatever they've come up with. Almost like it's a plan. Nathan texts, Patel and Johnson are critical of Putin's regime whilst trying to mimic it. Confused? Yeah, exactly. There's videos going around of people holding up pieces of paper in Red Square or some other place in Moscow, just in the streets. They're just holding up a blank piece of paper. I mean, there's that famous one of the woman who held up a paper with the phrase 2 words written on it. And she was arrested immediately in about 2 seconds for holding up a piece of paper that said 2 words. It was really, really quickly. And it was a very tiny piece of paper as well. She was being filmed, and she just held it up, and the policeman appeared out of nowhere as though by magic. And disappeared her instantly. And now it's got even more surreal than that. People are just holding up blank pieces of paper and getting arrested by the law. Which, weirdly, will shortly possibly be happening on the streets of this country. Anything they don't like, 10 years in jail. In Britain. It's a coup. Describe it in another way. Simon says, I would like to play rugby for England. I would do my best, but guess what? That wouldn't be good enough. I'm too fat and over 60. Bojo may be doing his best, but it is still woefully inadequate. You're woefully inadequate, Bodge. What are you going to say about that?
I can't comment on that.
Paul says strong and stable. Remember that one? Yeah, I do. I had a dream about Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Disgusting.
He has infested my brain. Get out of my brain, Jacob Rees-Mogg. Now, this was because last night I went on an unhinged rant about Smug. I just went on and on and on about him. It seemed to go on forever. And you can hear it, if you want, on the podcast of last night's show. It's on the World Wide Wait. The podcast is called What's Your Problem? No, it's called Nick Abbott, The Whole Show. What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol is the one that I do with Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right, yeah.
The one called Nick Abbott, The Whole Show is Nick Abbott's Whole Show.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that is available on the internet. And I've sort of really laid into him because I just had to get it off my chest, because for the last 3 weeks I've been sitting in for Tom, and it's all been the war every day. Every day is going to be the end of the world, and so I couldn't get into the fripperies of life, like tearing a strip off Smug. And so I did it in no uncertain means last night, and it must have affected me personally. Jacob Rees-Mogg has affected me personally. And I had a dream about him last night. It was really bizarre. he gave me a lift in his car, which was very decent of him, considering how beastly I was to him last night during my unhinged rant. And I sat there thinking, this is nice of him. Why is he doing this? You'd think he'd be cross. Like that. He sounds the same no matter what mood he's in, no matter what emotion he's expressing. Like a sort of... like air escaping from a space hopper. Like that. So I was sitting in his car and I thought, this is a bit of a nondescript car. I mean, it wasn't a Bentley or anything like that. By the way, is Steve Allen in the building?
Right now, no.
Yeah, isn't he? Because there's a Bentley the size of an oligarch's yacht parked just outside this building. Some of it, I mean, it's so huge, this car, that some of it's on the pavement. You're not supposed to park on the pavement, Steve. Anyway, it was a nondescript car. I really don't know anything about it. I just sat there and it's a bit sort of grey inside, like he must be, grey inside. He's grey outside and he's grey inside. I mean, can you imagine him red inside? If you cut him in half, just like a puff of dust would come out. That would be it. That would be it. Just a little puff of dust. And a homeless person came up to the car. He wanted some spare change. A little bit of spare change. Have you got 10 pence? A homeless person came up to me last night and said, have you got £1? Blimey. That's inflation, that is. £1? Well, I hadn't, because nobody takes money. Nobody carries money anymore. Who's got money anymore? Cash? Ain't got no cash. Do you take cards? It must be terrible for, I mean, apart from the not having a roof over your head part, people who are, are homeless and are asking for 10 pence. First of all, 10 pence ain't going to get you nowhere these days. So you've got to ask for £1, which seems like a bit much, doesn't it? £1? If there's a war on. But nobody's got £1 anymore. I mean, I may have an emergency 20 about my person, but I usually leave the house and forget to take any cash at all, because whoever uses it anymore. The cashless society is here, which of course means the state has ever more increasing control over you. Just think about that for a second, because they switched off people's credit cards in Russia. I know there was a bit of there was corollaries about it, wasn't there? There was if you got the credit card outside Russia, you can't spend it inside Russia, and if you've got the credit card inside Russia, you can't spend it outside Russia. And it seemed like they were doing something without really doing something, because if you really want to discombobulate people in Russia, just turn their credit cards off. But they didn't. It was like, if you got it in Russia, you can't spend it outside Russia, like that. But that does mean that not just the state can remove you of your ability to pay for anything, a company can. They can just think it up and do it. That is, I think that people are like this dawning realisation that we are now under complete control. If we step out of line, they can just remove our ability to buy anything. I mean, have you got any cash on you right now? Have you got any cash about the house? Have you got enough cash to last you a week? I mean, think if Vlad the Insaner managed to turn our electricity off. If he turned our electricity off, that would mean that the cash machines wouldn't work. All you'd have to do is switch our internet off and they wouldn't work. Have you got enough cash to keep you going? Of course you haven't. No one has. Very, very alarming. Anyway, I was sitting in the car with Jacob Rees-Mogg. It was a nondescript car. Don't ask me what it was. I did wonder, why is he driving a car like this? Not his style, I thought. Like Model T Ford, perhaps. Or a penny farthing is more his thing. You know, something performatively old. But no, it was just sort of grey. I think there were fabric seats.
Disgusting.
Fabric. Maybe it was a rental. Anyway, this homeless person came up and knocked on the window. Have you got some spare change, please? And Jacob Rees-Mogg drove away. Because that's what Jesus would do. And he took me to his flat. I don't know why. I don't know why I was in the car, and I don't know why he took me to his flat. But it was a tiny flat. And I came in and I thought, oh, this is a bit rubbish. Why is a bloke with your means living like this? It looked a bit like, you know when you go to B&Q and they've got the homewares department and they lay out a room to show you what their furniture would look like in a room setting? It looked like that. Does B&Q still exist? Is B&Q still a thing?
I think so.
Really? Are they still? Because if they've ceased to exist as an ongoing concern, that's the reason why. Their furniture's rubbish. If they still exist, or at least it was in my dream. In real life, of course, I'm sure it is beyond improvement. I'm sure it's excellent in every regard. But the front room of his, he probably didn't call it a front room, does he? He probably calls it the salon. It was absolutely microscopic, and I thought, wow, this is dreadful, Jacob. What are you living like this for? And I sat down on his rubbish grey sofa, and there was a blue mat in front of me, and he seemed inordinately proud of it. In fact, he smoothed it out with his bony hands. And it was a shag pile thing that looked like a bath mat. I don't know why he was proud of it, and I don't know why he smoothed it out, but he just wanted to draw attention to it. And I thought, huh. Look at you and your cheap mat. So I was sitting there on this terrible sofa, looking at the cheap mat that he just smoothed out with his bony hands, and he comes in with a teapot with 2 spouts on it. What's that about? There was one spout and another one. Couple of spouts. And he said, shall I be mother? And I said, oh, all right then. And he was trying to pour the tea from the pot with 2 spouts into a cup, but for some reason, he wasn't holding the cup with his other hand. He was balancing it on his pencil-like knees. And I thought, he's going to make a mess, so I'll help him out. And I had to rescue it. And so I held the cup as he poured it. And then his wife came in, or, you know, whoever that woman was that he hangs out with in my dream. And she poured milk first. Is that the correct way of doing it? Milk first? I've got no idea. Who cares? It's just tea. People obsess about that. Oh, no, you can't have the milk first because, you know, that's disgusting. It's still tea. Still tastes like hot dirt. But at that point, I thought, you know, I really shouldn't be here. Why am I here in Jacob Rees-Mogg's tiny flat with this stupid blue mat? And who is this woman? So I left. And I found myself outside, wandering around, and I realised that I'd left my phone in his flat. See, the detail of this is just ridiculous. But I thought, I can't go back because I just don't want to go back to that flat anymore. Like, why am I hanging out with Jacob Rees-Mogg? And so I just abandoned my phone. And because I didn't have my phone, I didn't know how to get a bus back to where I should be. And there was a bus stop up ahead. So I went there, and Maurizio Pochettino was sitting at the bus stop. Figure that one out. Maurizio Pochettino out of football. The ex-manager of Tottenham Hotspur was sitting at the bus stop, and it's dark, and the streets were totally deserted. And I asked Maurizio Pochettino how to get a bus to where I live. And he didn't know. But he gave me a magazine. And it was one of those freebie magazines you get through the post, through your door, which are mostly estate agents' ads. And something had been written on the front of it in biro, but I couldn't read what it was. And that's when the dream ended. That's when I woke up and said, I've been spending time in a closed environment with Jacob Rees-Mogg. So I've got no idea what was written on the front of that magazine, but it could be very important. I need Leonardo DiCaprio to send me back into the dream so I can read what top football manager Maurizio Pochettino was trying to tell me. But I've been calling all day and Leonardo DiCaprio won't return my call. Damn it! 0345 6060 973. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
Honestly, dear, I have no idea. Paul tweets, that Jacob dream seemed more like a nightmare. Did you wake up in a cold sweat? No, I woke up all squidgy. Squidgy and warm. Thank you, Jacob. You can infest my dreams anytime you like. Had a great time. Rona text, I wonder what Freud would have to say about your dream of a haunted pencil. Well, it depends. Which Freud? There's loads of them. Wayne tweets, why are we smoking? We are trying to live through a conservative regime without clawing someone's eyes out. We need something to take the edge off. Well, that is true.
Want to score some pot?
Other drugs are available.
Booze.
Just say no. Just say no thank you. I mean, good manners don't cost nothing, do they?
Be polite.
Let's have Hornchurch. Glenn.
Good morning, Nick.
Yes, Glenn.
It has been many years since I've phoned you.
Oh, yes.
But on your recommendation, I bought that film Idiocracy.
Ah.
I watched it once.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to watch it again later on today because I'm sure it will have more relevance with the worldwide situation now.
It certainly will.
So I thank you for recommending the film.
There's something else that you should watch. There's a film that's been, I mentioned this last night, there's a film that's been made just recently with, as a matter of fact, coincidentally, Leonardo DiCaprio in it. It's called Don't Look Up.
Okay, I've written that down and I will get a copy. Well, I'll order one tomorrow.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
If you got Netflix, it's on. I think it's on Netflix.
I was going to check that first.
It's very, very good, and it's along the same sort of lines. See, if you don't know, Idiocracy was made by the same guy that did Beavis and Butthead, but it has little to do with Beavis and Butthead. It's essentially a comedy about a dystopian future that really rapidly turned into a documentary about the present.
But I think much like your radio program, it's essential viewing, listening, and needs another replay.
Yeah, it's educational.
I will get it, and but I don't know whether I'm going to be able to afford to pay for it because I've got to pay for this telephone call as well.
Oh,
so,
haven't we called you back?
No.
What?
But such was my want to get through that I listened to you recalling that dream of yours.
Yeah, bizarre.
What a strange man you are at times.
Thanks.
But you know, I hope your partner can suffer the way you must be sleeping these days.
I'm sleeping just fine. Me and Jacob. We're doing just fine, Glenn. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Idiocracy. I've been banging on about that film for years. Now, it's not a particularly intelligent film, but it is funny. I would recommend drinking a couple of pints, getting yourself in the mood, and then lying back and enjoying it. It is as it sounds. We are living in an idiocracy. Stupid, stupid, stupid. We keep doing stupid things, and we keep voting stupid ways, and we keep getting the same reason, and the overriding reason for all of that is
I love the poorly educated.
Bingo. Watch Idiocracy and then watch Don't Look Up. Very, very good. I mean, it doesn't say very much that's positive about the human race, but it's definitely worth your while. Paul tweets. That Jacob dreams... No, I read that. I read the Freud one. I read the smoking one. I'm way ahead of schedule. Daniel says, "Hi, Nick. I found something less useful than bodge. A hotel iron. Like the man itself, it just... it just dribbles and splutters, but achieves very little."
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Stella says, "When you put a clown into a castle, he doesn't become a king. The palace becomes a circus." Ain't that right, Budge?
I can't comment on that.
It's a yes. I want to talk about the Conservative Party conference today. Have you been seeing anything that's come out of the Conservative Party conference? I mean, some of it's absolutely jaw-dropping. How do these people live with themselves? How do they wake up in the morning and think, yes, this is what I'm doing for a living? Stella says, when you put I read that. I should delete them as I read them. That would be the efficient thing to do. Trevor tweets, based on the recommendations, you need to watch God Bless America. Oh, really? I don't know anything about that, but yeah, okay. It sounds funny. I'm smiling already. James says, the new Conservative conference slogan, getting the job done. I bet Johnson came up with that one on the toilet. Or was it Gove? It's too syllable-y. Because first of all, it's four words, and that is a big no. And furthermore...
No.
3 words, 3-word slogans, not 4. And getting 2 syllables. So you got 5 syllables. Wrong. Plus, it's got the word job in it.
Disgusting.
I don't know who came up with that, but they're an idiot. Can't concentrate on any other word but the word job. Paul says, while listening to Boris Johnson and punching myself to distract myself from the pain of listening to Boris Johnson, I noticed that he knows a lot about what Mad Vlad Putin is like. Where does he get all that personal information? Gosh, I wonder. I'm thinking... Yeah, there was secret meetings. I am not going to have enough time to fit any of this stuff in these 2 shows. But the Labour Party has accused Bodger Johnson of deliberately hiding details of meetings at his country residence Chequers. Deliberately hiding the details of meetings at his country residence in Chequers. Isn't that surprising?
No.
A source with links to the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office told Open Democracy that there were internal concerns about Chequers being used as an undocumented channel for Conservative Party business. Angela Rayner, out of the Labour Party, said it was deeply concerning that vital transparency data was being covered up to avoid scrutiny of who the Prime Minister was entertaining. Seriously, has there been a Russian coup in this country? And we've been too distracted by the dear leader's hair and his bumptious demeanour to bring your own bottle to business meetings. Is that what we've been distracted by? Angela Rayner, Labour's deputy leader, said, what has the Prime Minister got to hide? With questions raised about Boris Johnson's secret meetings with Russian oligarchs, it is crucial that the Cabinet Office releases this data to the public. And will they?
No.
Of course not. The Ministerial Code states that Chequers should not be used for party political work. When the Prime Minister hosts Conservative Party or personal events at Chequers, it should be at his expense with, as the code states, no cost falling to the public purse. Any comments, Bodger?
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Sure you did. Details of guests who visited Chequers and Chevening, the Foreign Secretary's grace and favour estate, were previously routinely published. But the practice appears to have ended shortly after David Cameron won a Conservative majority in 2015.
I think this is nonsense.
Official transparency data has not been updated since December 2015. We've got no idea what they're doing. The Prime Minister has been criticised for his relationship with Evgeny Lebedev, the Russian-born media mogul. Johnson reportedly overrode security concerns to give Lebedev a seat in the House of Lords. Of course, he said he didn't, but then he also said this.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Unbelievable. Shortly before Bodge won the Conservative leadership contest and became Prime Minister in 2019, Open Democracy published the first full details of his visit to Lebedev's villa in Umbria, in Italy. This week, Labour wrote to the Home Office asking if any record of this meeting was kept. No. Open Democracy has previously revealed that in March 2020, Lebedev and Johnson had a personal meeting just days before the COVID-19 lockdown. One Conservative MP, serially critical of Johnson's record as Prime Minister, told Open Democracy, Boris plays by his own rules. If we did not know that at the beginning, we know it now. He is reluctant to use his own money in anything connected to his role as PM. Johnson, of course, has form when it comes to delaying the release of potentially damaging information. In March 2019, Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee examined Russian interference in British politics. The 50-page Russia report was sent to Johnson in number 10 in October 2019. No, 2019. It was eventually published, heavily redacted, in July 2020. The Russia report found that, quotes, a lot of Russians with very close links to Putin were well integrated into the UK business and social scene. And Bodger Johnson refused to act on its conclusions that the government must take necessary measures to challenge the impunity of Putin-linked elites. Can anybody think why Boris Johnson would refuse to act on those conclusions? Although it is illegal for any Russian national to donate to a UK political party, those with dual UK-Russian status or UK nationals with significant links to Putin's Kremlin have donated to the Conservative Party in recent years. Labour claims that Russian-linked donors have given close to £2 million to the Conservatives since Johnson became leader. There's 2 million reasons right there. Prime Ministers have often entertained guests at Chequers, of course, but it's usually not a list of names like Alexei, Leonid, Nikita, Dmitry, Igor, Ivan, Mikhail, Valentin and Pasha.
Correct.
Look at the time. It's somewhat after 12:30. The news headlines with Serena Farrow.
Oh, hello.
Oh, I played that one already. I'll choose another one at random.
Yes, hello. I've been waiting for you. Hello.
There you are. Look at that switchboard. Absolutely dead. Is anybody remotely interested in anything I'm saying?
No.
Felicity emails, hey Nick, have you looked outside? Look up, I double dare you, it's a full moon. A full moon? Where are all the crazy callers tonight? Well, that's a good point. I parked the car earlier on and the moon was just rising over the horizon. And of course, when it's at the horizon, it looks huge. It's an illusion. It's called the moon illusion. And it looked absolutely massive right there over the city of London with all the buildings. I was going to take a picture, but I thought, oh, never mind. I've seen the moon before. I don't need a picture of it. But I was going to, but I didn't. Sue emails, I'd like to know who's going to pay for all the knighthoods now that the oligarchs have had their assets frozen. Well, I think there's a lot of things that are going to be in want of cash now that the oligarchs have had their assets frozen. Of course, they haven't had their assets frozen. We gave them just plenty of time to move all their assets out. All their cash, anything that was liquid, they just skipped out of the country because our government, for some strange reason, gave them plenty of time, loads of notice, to get all of their money out. It's probably residing in some Swiss bank right now, or in one of those dots in the middle of the ocean that have got a Union Jack fluttering from a government building, you know, those dodgy tax havens. It's what we do for a living. Bodger gave them plenty of time to move their cash out. It's just the stuff that they couldn't actually pick up and leave. They couldn't transfer at the press of a button. that's causing them problems. But it ain't no bother to them that they can't move a £100 million house out. What's 100 million quid to somebody who's got 100 billion quid? But, there's just loads of things, like all those accountants, all those dodgy accountants in shiny buildings in the City of London. What are they going to do for money now? All those lawyers, all those evil, nasty, twisted lawyers that keep all of this going, that grease the wheels, make sure that journalists don't ask any impertinent questions. Where are they going to get their cash from now? They'll have to actually do proper work. Banks are going to be really upset. They're going to have, they're going to be making only hundreds of millions, not thousands of millions. There's going to be a lot of, and those people selling handbags for 50 grand each down Bond Street, they're going to be upset. You wait till they open the doors and they don't have, people with a V in their name coming through. There's just taking whole shelves full of stuff. Declan emails, I just realised why this Tory party suddenly seems to like Ukrainian refugees. They have blue passports. Liam says, listed below are Jacob Rees-Mogg's achievements since he's been in office. And that's where the email ends. I can't think of a single solitary thing. Not one single thing that he has achieved since he's been in office. I mean, can you think of anything? One single thing. Go on, I double dare you. Anything at all. Why do the people of Somerset keep voting for him? Why? What are you getting out of it? It's mystifying. It really is. Do you really think that he has your best interest? Poor people of this country, do you think that millionaires and billionaires have your best interests at heart? What is it that makes you think that? Steve says, we need strong leaders. I personally think that Mr. Mogg as PM and Mrs. Widdicombe for Chancellor, we might just have a chance. What do you think? Anne Widdicombe? That woman. Andy says, looks like the Tories have deliberately used their spring conference to link the situation in Ukraine with their own divisive obsessions. Utterly inappropriate and actually quite appalling. Correct, Amundo. That's right. I'll get into that in a second. But just before that, they're in Blackpool, of course. And a Blackpool South MP was in the news this week, Scott Benton. You know Scott Benton, don't you? Bill! Yeah, that's him. A Conservative MP suggested that the best opportunity for people to cope with soaring bills is to get a job. Now, that would not perhaps be so controversial if his intervention had not come after the SNP's Stuart Hosey had read out a letter in the House that he had received from a constituent living with her disabled partner in a single-income household who had done everything in her power to cut costs. The unnamed individual could not afford to turn on the storage heaters due to the sheer cost, the Dundee East MP said. SNP's Stuart Hosey explained that his constituent's standing charge had more than doubled. Why has that happened, by the way? What's the price of oil got to do with the standing charge? That's just you renting the whatever it is that squirts the stuff up your house. Why has that gone up, by the way? Mr. Hosey, out of the SNP, explained that his constituents' standing charge had more than doubled, even though her electricity all came from renewables. Why has the electricity from renewables gone up so much, you might be asking yourself? He added that she had been flatly denied a pay rise or increase in expenses for her work-from-home job. He said, this is someone who has already done everything she can and yet has been hammered by energy price rises. Blackpool South MP Scott Benton, a Conservative, suggested that the best opportunity for people to cope with soaring bills is to get a job. Wow. He said, it would be remiss of me not to point out that the state can only do so much. Yeah, I mean, they can only write cheques for £108 million to their mates and donors for PPE that either doesn't show up or doesn't work and is completely useless, to the point that they're burning tons of it every day now just to get rid of it. That is just good value for money. All those cheques for the weirdly precise amount of 108 million quid. We can afford no end of that, because it's going to the right people. But you poor people who can't afford to turn your heating on, well, I'm sorry, but we've done enough. I mean, you could repurpose the time that you ordinarily spend asleep to get a second job. Why are you slacking for 8 hours a day doing nothing in bed? Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick.
Mike.
Yeah, Tory MPs, they claim their fuel back from the government.
That's right.
Absolute bloody cheat. Anyway, getting on to Zim Bodger's speech today.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bream. You'd have thought he'd left fish alone after what he's done for the fishing industry.
I actually didn't see that. I have a bream.
I have a bream. Yeah, he was running down the beach, and he came across some people digging bait.
Yeah.
So he stopped to talk to them, and they said they were digging lugworms. Well, you can see him taking an interest in that in case he has a cabinet reshuffle in the near future. But then the bloke explained to him that he needed lugworms to catch bream. So then at the conference he came out with, I have a bream, which is absolutely bizarre. He also came out saying about what the Tory government had done for the Northern Powerhouse Railway. He cancelled the flaming project. It's only going so far. The Northern Powerhouse Railway got cancelled.
Right, yeah, the branch, yes.
Yeah, and the bit to Bradford and Leeds, and got the cross one that went from Manchester to Hull.
Right.
He cancelled the bit that went to Bradford. He stopped the other one short at Nottingham, and it didn't go all the way up to Leeds.
Yeah, but Mike.
And there he was.
Yeah, Mike. These are only facts. He has alternative facts,
which he borrowed from the ginger lunatic. Alternative facts. But all it was, when you listen to it in detail, we are gonna do more offshore wind. We are gonna dig more. Yeah. We're going to dig more gas and oil out of the North Sea. Mm-hmm. We're going to do nuclear. We're gonna do this, gonna do that, gonna do the other. There's nothing real in the whole thing.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's actually worse than that. I'll come to that in a minute. But thanks a lot, Mike. He called you ginger, Donny.
Don't be rude.
0345 6060 973. Nick Abbott. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. LBC.
Come on, we're running late.
So they're having a Conservative Party conference. And each and every one of them will have chosen their most nubile assistant and made sure that they get adjoining rooms in the hotel.
Disgusting.
I betcha. What happens in Blackpool stays in Blackpool. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, the Brains Truss, has called for Britain's so-called culture wars to be cancelled. The party that is constantly whining about things being cancelled wants to cancel the culture wars. Me Smug said the same thing yesterday, almost as though a focus group approved memo has gone round. Here's the thing though, if they want everyone to stop having culture war arguments, why do they keep bringing it up? The Brains Trust said it's time to end and shut down ludicrous debates on pronouns. Liz Truss is the actual government's equalities minister. The equalities minister doesn't want people to feel as though they are equal in some way, because some people's feelings are more important, said the equalities minister. It's also very, what would Donald Trump do? He'd appoint someone to a department that is ideologically opposed to what that department is supposed to be doing.
Don't be rude.
Like appointing an oil baron to be to the Green Energy Department, or Colonel Sanders to promote veganism. Liz the Brains Trust, the actual Equalities Minister, said the constant question and introspection needed to cease. No more thinking for yourself. That's right out. No more reflective thoughts. No more looking at yourself or hippie meditation. Groovy. All thoughts must be controlled, said Liz Truss, the Minister for Controlling Thoughts. In a speech to the Vladimir Putin Memorial Conservative Party Spring Conference in Blackpool, sponsored by Sberbank, Liz Truss said the UK's response to the crisis in Ukraine should mean a restoration of pride in British values. No one has done more for refugees from the war in Ukraine than this Conservative government, right up to but not including actually helping. And no country has given friendly oligarchs more time to spirit their wealth out of the country before pretending to crack down hard on them. God, fair makes you proud to be a wholly owned subsidiary of the Kremlin, don't it?
No.
You see, the problem is that people keep thinking for themselves about history rather than reading from government-approved volumes on how unimprovably great Britain has always been. There have been recent calls to reassess the reputations of key British figures, including but not limited to Winston Churchill, for views that they held which are deemed incompatible with the modern day. You know, views like starving millions of people by routing food away from them while calling them the beastliest people in the world next to the Germans, and saying things like black people aren't as capable as white people, and those in colonised countries who didn't like being ruled by a foreign nation are savages armed with ideas. Stuff like that. And don't forget, the actual British people voted him, Winston Churchill, out of office before the war was completely over. But, you know, I suppose those British people weren't really British enough, as they hadn't learned what was happening to them in 1945 from government-approved textbooks written 70 years later. When Churchill was the actual leader of this country, people then weren't so uncritical of him as those stoking the culture wars on the right are today. Almost as if you're a traitor if you weren't born after 1950. Pretty rich of the right-wingers today to call people who doubt he was a saint traitors when those who actually lived under his rule didn't think he was a saint. And they're upset about road names and buildings undergoing name changes due to links with slave traders, which the Tories seem to be weirdly incensed about. I mean, they couldn't care less about some street name in a place that they couldn't locate with a sat-nav. It just gives them something to distract their fans from when they've been caught out partying like it's New Year's Eve while they find us for meeting one other person on a park bench. Liz Truss, who is the actual occupant of what has become the comedy role of Foreign Secretary, told the conference, now is the time to end the culture of self-doubt, the constant self-questioning and introspection, the ludicrous debates about language, statues and pronouns. Yeah, agreed. Let's stop talking about it. Some statues shouldn't be there. Take them down. End of discussion. She said, our history, warts and all, make us what we are today. That's right. So talking about it and recognising it shouldn't be something that makes you an enemy of the state. She said we live in a great country, a great democracy, and we should be proud of it. Correct. We shouldn't be working to undermine it by accepting vast amounts of Russian cash from shady individuals doing Putin's dirty work and allowing us to be destabilised from within. We shouldn't be trying to hobble democracy by trying to make it as difficult as possible for those least likely to support the Tories to be able to vote, by doing things like introducing ID checks, which solve a problem that doesn't exist. And we shouldn't allow the vital infrastructure of this nation to be used against us by selling it off, no questions asked, to foreign interests who only have short-term profits in mind. In short, this great country shouldn't have raw sewage pumped all over it as the current regime allows. And, of course, His Imperial Bodginess, spoke.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
He had disarranged himself, especially for the event. His hair mussed and his suit hanging off him. It looked like a bag of sprouting potatoes. And here's why I know that they're saying we must end the culture war is the new culture war, by constantly going on about how we should stop going on about it. Bodge said, we don't need to be woke, we just want to be free. What the hell is he talking about? They don't actually need to make any sense now, it's just a collection of buzzwords. Woke, sovereignty, a dinghy. That farcical, soulless void that is the Brexit minister Jacob Rees-Mogg was at it too. He'd read the memo as well, or he had somebody read it to him. And he whittled on about it was time to get away from the wokery that has beset huge sections of society. Only because you lot keep going on about it. Like someone thinking of someone else's feelings is an existential threat to society, you constipated ghoul. He probably bested anything he has ever said on any subject ever, did Bodge. And you could see him gird himself before he said it. I mean, there was a pause in his delivery, as though he was thinking, OK, here we go. And then he sped up, as though he could just sprint through the next bit and no one outside the hall would notice that he'd finally taken leave of any sense that he might actually be a decent, honourable person. He compared the struggle of the people of Ukraine, the bombs, the death, the misery and the horror, to us leaving the European Union.
What?
He actually said that out loud. He said, the instinct of the people of this country, like the people of Ukraine, is to choose freedom every time. When the British people voted for Brexit in such large numbers, I don't believe it was that they were remotely hostile to foreigners. It's because they wanted to be free to do things differently and for this country to be able to run itself. Wow. You sad excuse for a human being, Bodge.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
In a packed list of shameful outbursts, that is possibly the worst thing you've ever said.